Step out, costume and all.
Officer, please call the courthouse.
Out of the car, now! I will comply.
People wear anything and think rules change. My name is on the docket this morning. Your name goes in my report.
He asked you to call the courthouse.
Possible impersonation.
The red and blue lights froze behind him before sunrise, and the officer's voice cut through the open window. Step out, costume and all. The black man in the dark robe kept both hands visible, calm enough to make the young patrolman angrier. Why would a quiet driver risk arrest instead of explaining who he was? Why did the badge on the officer's chest seem to matter more than the law he claimed to protect? And why did one trembling court clerk, watching from across the road, suddenly start recording? Before the morning was over, a traffic stop would reach the courthouse steps, and one robe would change the whole town. Put the robe on the hood, Officer Blake Mercer said. Nathaniel Reed stood beside the sedan with both palms open, dawn air cold under his cuffs. The black robe hung from one shoulder, where Mercer had pulled it loose. Across the street, the coffee stand hissed with steam, then went quiet. I will place it wherever you instruct, Nathaniel said. But I'm asking you to call the courthouse. Mercer laughed once. For a traffic stop? For verification? You have a costume, a story, and a broken taillight. The taillight worked when I left home. Of course it did. Young Officer Evan Bell kept his notebook open. His eyes moved from Nathaniel's license to the folder on the passenger seat. Sir, he handed over another ID. Mercer did not turn. I'm handling it. Burnt espresso and exhaust drifted over the curb. Nathaniel lowered the robe. The fabric slipped from his fingers and folded onto the pavement, one sleeve reaching into road dust beside the white line. Mercer pointed at it. That's the problem. People put something on and think the rules change. Nathaniel looked at the cloth, not at the phones rising from strangers' hands. My name is on the docket this morning. Your name is going on my report if you keep talking. Across the road, Evelyn Hart stepped out from behind the coffee stand's windscreen. She knew which courthouse footsteps belonged to which judge. Her fingers tightened around her phone. Lila, she whispered. The coffee stand owner leaned closer. Do you know him? I work for him. Mercer stepped toward Nathaniel. The patrol lights washed red over his jaw, then blue. Hands behind your back. Evan's pen scratched once. Officer Mercer, he hasn't. Hands. Nathaniel looked toward the courthouse dome. May I call my daughter? She is waiting. That can wait. No, Nathaniel said softly. It cannot, but I understand. The cuff closed around his left wrist with a small click. Cold metal pressed above his pulse. The crowd did not move. Someone's spoon tapped a cup 3 times, then stopped. Evelyn's thumb found the red record button. Mercer leaned near Nathaniel's ear. You should have just said you were late for a party. Nathaniel turned enough for the body camera to catch his profile. I said exactly where I was expected. Then Nathaniel's phone began vibrating on the roof. One long buzz, a pause, then another. Mercer glanced at the screen. Maya Reed. Nathaniel's face changed for the first time. Please answer that. Mercer looked at the name and set the phone face down on the roof. Not now. Evelyn stepped off the curb. Officer? Mercer spun toward her. "Stay back." She froze with one shoe in the street, phone held low, but recording. "He asked you to call the courthouse." "And who are you?" Evelyn's eyes moved to Nathaniel. He gave the smallest shake of his head. The patrol radio crackled. Mercer pressed the button on his shoulder. "One detained. Possible impersonation. Bringing him in." Evan looked up fast. "Impersonation?" Mercer opened the rear door. "That's what I said." Nathaniel bent into the patrol car. The Robe remained on the asphalt behind him, gathering dust at the hem, while the phone on his sedan began vibrating again with his daughter's name. At 4:52 a.m., the iron hissed over the left sleeve of Nathaniel Reed's robe. The house was dark except for the kitchen lamp Elise had bought at a flea market. Rain tapped the back steps. Nathaniel lifted the robe, checked the seam, and smoothed it with 2 fingers. "You're going to wear a hole through that thing," Maya's voice said from his phone. He had her on speaker beside a chipped mug. "A judge may be wrinkled. His robe should not be. You'll be there by 8? Before 8. Dad, you know why I'm asking." Nathaniel looked toward the hallway, where Elise's framed photograph stood on the shelf. In it, she wore a yellow scarf by the Riverwalk. He opened the drawer and took out the smaller copy, its corners soft from years of pockets. "I know," he said. "It's my first formal motion calendar. I don't need a speech. I just need you in the room. You will have both if you are not careful." "I mean it." "So do I." He slid the photograph into the inside pocket of the robe. The paper touched his shirt through the lining, a familiar square against his ribs. Maya heard the drawer close. "You're taking Mom?" "I take her every important morning." She would have told me not to check my notes 20 times. She would have told you to check them 21 and pretend you did not. Her laugh held. "Coffee first?" "Lila's stand, then the courthouse. Old Bridge is faster since Maine is torn up. I know the city I served for 27 years, counselor. Then prove it by not being late." After the call, he found his ceremony notes in the leather folder. Maya's name, 3 lines about duty, and 1 line about Elise he had crossed out. He fixed his cuffs, tied the knot, and turned his wedding ring once before leaving. At the front door, he glanced at the empty hook where Elise's red coat had hung. "Before 8, he said. The old sedan coughed twice before starting. Its dashboard clock glowed 5:36. Nathaniel placed the robe on the passenger seat. At Lila's coffee stand, steam curled under the awning. Lila Cruz slid open the window, silver hoops catching the gray light. "Judge Reed," she said. "Double black, no sugar, because joy offends you. Discipline builds character. Sugar also builds character." He paid in exact change. Behind him, 2 delivery men glanced at the robe through the car window. One whispered, "Church play?" Lila's face tightened. "Don't mind people who wake up empty and call it observation. They are allowed to wonder. They're allowed to be quiet, too." A police cruiser rolled past, tires clicking over gravel. Nathaniel noticed the polished badge flash, the quick second look at his car. Then the cruiser turned away. Lila followed his gaze. "Everything all right?" "Routine morning." "Those are the ones that bite." He set the cup in the holder. The lid trembled as the engine settled. "Tell Maya I was early if she asks." "She won't ask me. She'll accuse you directly." Nathaniel pulled onto the street while the sky paled behind Hawthorne Falls Courthouse. Repair cones blocked Maine, their orange skins shining wet, so he turned toward the old bridge. The robe shifted beside him at the curve, and Elise's photograph, hidden in the pocket, made the smallest paper sound. At 5:41, Officer Blake Mercer stood under the buzzing lights of Hawthorne Falls Police Department and rubbed his thumb over his badge until brass caught light. "Leave it alone," Officer Evan Bell said from the next locker. "You'll polish your name off." A uniform is the first report people read. "I thought the first report was the report." Blake looked at him in the mirror. Evan was 24, all clean corners and academy habits. "That's why you're observing." The locker room smelled of damp wool, floor cleaner, and burned coffee. On the bench lay the paper he had opened 3 times before sunrise. Promotion review pending. Sergeant Nolan Pierce filled the doorway with a paper cup and a tablet. 46, square-faced, with reading glasses on his collar, he scanned the room as if everyone had already disappointed him. Roll call. The briefing room held 6 officers, a wall map, and a heater that clicked without warmth. "City Council meets Friday," Pierce said. "Mayor's office wants visible results. Stops, citations, courthouse corridor. Construction on Main pushes traffic to Bridge Road." An older officer yawned. Pierce turned his head. The yawn disappeared. Blake leaned forward. "We'll keep it tight." "That's what I like hearing. And Mercer?" "Yes, Sergeant." "Command reviewed your traffic request." The room thinned around Blake. Not denied, not approved. Cleaner months, less noise, more results. Evan's pen paused above his notebook. Blake kept his face still. "Understood." Pierce stepped closer. "You want that slot? Control the morning without paperwork climbing upstairs." "I can do that." "Good." "Bell rides with you. Teach him how we keep this town from slipping." Outside, wet air carried asphalt and pine pollen. Blake walked to Cruiser 214 faster than Evan could match. "What did he mean by noise?" Evan asked. "Complaints from people who don't like being corrected." "Were they serious?" "If they were serious, I wouldn't be driving." Evan paused at the door. "My trainer said every complaint has 1 sentence worth reading." Blake looked over the roof. "Your trainer sells boat insurance." Evan got in. By 5:58, they rolled along Main Street. Orange cones shivered in drizzle. The wipers dragged a dry rubber sound across the glass. "Courthouse corridor," dispatch said. "Light traffic. Construction active." Blake keyed the mic. 214 in the area. Evan studied the laptop map. "Detour pushes everyone toward the old bridge. Then that's where we sit." They parked beside a closed florist. Blake adjusted the rearview mirror, not for traffic, but for his own eyes. A compact car rolled through. A delivery truck. Then an old sedan pulled away from Lila's coffee stand. Its engine coughed over a pothole. Through the wet windshield, Blake saw a black robe spread over the passenger seat. He gave a short laugh. "What?" Evan asked. "People get creative when they want respect." The sedan's brake lights glowed at the stop sign near the bridge, brief and red in the gray morning. Evan leaned forward. He stopped. Not complete. It looked complete. Blake pulled out behind the sedan. His badge flashed once in the laptop glow. "Watch and learn," he said, and switched on the lights. Blue light filled Nathaniel's rearview mirror as Old Bridge rose out of the rain. He eased the sedan onto the shoulder before the cruiser chirped twice. The coffee cup in the holder trembled against its ring, the lid ticking with the low hum behind him. He set both hands high on the wheel. "Traffic stop?" Blake said into the radio. "Older gray sedan, Bridge Road." Evan checked the laptop. "Registered to Nathaniel Reed. Clean." He stopped. "Watch closer." Nathaniel saw them in the mirror. Blake quick, Evan half a step behind. Exhaust and coffee slipped through the window. "License, registration, insurance," Blake said. "Good morning. Wallet in my jacket. Papers in the glove compartment. May I reach? Blake's eyes moved to the passenger seat. What's with the robe? I'm expected at courthouse. That wasn't my question. It is a judicial robe. Blake gave a small laugh. You a lawyer? No. Then reach slow. Nathaniel removed his wallet, opened the glove compartment with 2 fingers, and handed over registration, insurance, license, and a cream-colored credential. My court ID is on top. Blake looked at the license first. Going where? Hawthorne County Courthouse. At 6 in the morning? The court opens earlier than the public doors. Evan leaned in. Officer Mercer, that says... Blake shifted the stack away. I can read. Inside the car, Elise's photograph made the faintest paper sound from the robe pocket. Blake tapped the license against the roof. You know why I stopped you? I assume you will tell me. You failed to make a complete stop back there. Nathaniel glanced toward the red sign blurred by drizzle. I stopped before the line. You slowed. I stopped. And you're driving around before sunrise with a costume on your seat. Evan's eyes flicked to Blake's body camera. Nathaniel's fingers stayed open on the wheel. Officer, I am scheduled in courtroom 1. My clerk can verify that with 1 phone call. Your clerk. Yes. You always carry props this good? The coffee lid ticked again. Nathaniel heard it as if the whole road had gone quiet. May I ask for your name? He said. You can read it. I am asking you to state it for the record. Blake leaned closer. Step out of the vehicle. Evan's pen stopped. He hasn't refused anything. Bell. The single word ended it. Nathaniel unclipped his seatbelt. If I am being detained, tell me the basis. You're being questioned. That is not the same thing. Blake opened the door. Cold air rushed in. Out. Nathaniel lifted the robe from the passenger seat. Its sleeve caught on the gear shift, and he freed it carefully, protecting the photograph hidden in the pocket. Put that down, Blake said. It contains personal property. It contains fabric. Nathaniel stepped onto wet gravel. Water pressed through his dress shoes. The courthouse dome was hidden beyond fog and shop roofs. Evan held the papers now. His thumb rested under the credential seal. Sir, we should call this in. We will. When? When I decide what I'm looking at. Nathaniel turned just enough to meet Evan's eyes. Not a plea. Only a witness offered the chance to remain one. Blake pointed to the hood. Set the robe there, slowly. Nathaniel laid the robe on the hood. Wet metal darkened the fold. Road dust clung to the hem, brown against black. Blake Mercer watched as if the cloth itself had talked back. Turn around. Officer, call the courthouse first. This is not court, sir. No, but procedure still applies here. Evan Bell held documents against his vest. The cream credential faced out. Officer Mercer, this says judicial branch. Blake's shoulder turned. Evan stopped. Hands behind your back. Across the street, the milk wand at Lila Cruz's coffee stand screamed until she snapped it off. Evelyn Hart stood by the window with her phone low near her coat pocket. A red dot glowed. Evelyn, Lila whispered. Is that him? Yes. The first cuff clicked. Men by the coffee window lowered their cups but did not move closer. Blake tightened the second cuff, and a red line rose on Nathaniel's wrist. He did not rub it. For what suspected offense? Nathaniel asked. Possible misrepresentation. Possible obstruction. I have not obstructed you. You keep telling me who you are. I asked you to verify who I am. Blake lifted one corner of the robe. The sleeve slid across the hood, dragging a dark streak through grit. With this? Evan glanced at the body camera. Courthouse dispatch can verify from here. We'll verify at the station. That isn't what I said. It's what I heard. Nathaniel's phone buzzed on the sedan roof. Blake glanced down. Maya Reed. My daughter. Please answer. She can wait. She is waiting in the courthouse. Then she can keep waiting. Evelyn stepped off the curb. Officer? Blake snapped toward her. Stay back. He asked you to call. And who are you? Lila opened the coffee window. Warm espresso air spilled out. She works there. Nathaniel turned enough for Evelyn to see his face. A small shake of his head. Do not. Blake noticed. You know her? I know many court employees. My name is Nathaniel Reed. My registration matches my license. My court identification is in your possession. I am scheduled in courtroom 1 this morning. Nice speech. It is a record. Rain ticked on the cruiser roof. A delivery driver lifted his phone. Blake pointed. Put it away. The man lowered it. Evelyn did not. Blake pressed his shoulder mic. 214, 1 detained. Possible impersonation. Transporting for verification. Evan's pen stopped. Impersonation? That's what I said. Open the rear door. The credential? Bell. Evan opened the cruiser door. Cold air rolled out, carrying vinyl and disinfectant. Nathaniel walked without being pulled. Gravel shifted under his dress shoes. Lila stepped from the stand, towel twisted in both hands. Judge! Evelyn caught her arm. Blake heard it. What did you say? I said, just be careful. Nathaniel paused by the cruiser and looked back at the robe. Dust gathered along the hem like ash. My photograph is in the inside pocket, he said. Blake looked at the people watching. Get in. Maya's name lit Nathaniel's phone again, bright and ordinary against the wet roof. Nathaniel folded himself into the back seat. Through the glass, he saw Evelyn recording, Lila holding her towel like a rope, and Evan standing beside the untouched robe. At 7:18 a.m., Maya Reed stood beneath the courthouse clock and watched the minute hand move without sound. The lobby smelled of wax, wet wool, and bitter coffee. Lawyers passed through the metal detector with folders against chests. Every few seconds, Maya looked at the front doors. He said before 8, she told the guard. Mr. Sykes checked the street through the glass. Judge Reed usually beats janitors. That's not helping. No, ma'am. Maya called again. The line rang until her father's calm voice answered from yesterday. You have reached Nathaniel Reed. Leave your name if it matters, and if it does not, reconsider. She swallowed. Dad, it's me. Call me back, please. Marcus Hale came from the clerk's corridor. 51, narrow-shouldered, with a pen clipped high on his tie. Still nothing? 5 calls. He may be driving. He answers at red lights with, I am not answering at red lights. Marcus tried to smile. Main Street construction has been ugly. He took Bridge Road. At the counter, a young clerk whispered, Judge Reed never runs late. Maya heard it. So did everyone nearby. The words settled on the polished floor and stayed there. Diane Whitcomb, the local reporter, looked up from her phone. Counselor Reed, is the ceremony delayed? No comment. That sounds like yes. It sounds like no comment. Her phone vibrated, but it was not her father. Evelyn Hart's name appeared. Maya answered before the second buzz. Evelyn? For a moment, there was only wind, a passing car, and the hiss of a coffee machine. Maya, Evelyn said, where are you? Courthouse. Where's my father? I'm across from Lila's stand. Bridge Road. Is he there? He was. The lobby noise thinned. Was? A patrol car took him. Maya pressed the phone tighter to her ear. The glass doors showed the pale morning outside, too bright to hold that sentence. Say that again. I recorded some of it. He asked them to call the courthouse. He was calm. Marcus moved closer. What happened? Maya held up one finger. Was he hurt? No, not that I saw. They cuffed him, Maya. Her hand slipped on the phone. Who? Officer Mercer, young partner with him. Diane stopped pretending not to listen. Maya turned away from the lobby. Do not post anything. Bring the video here. I'm afraid if I move it, they'll say I changed it. Then keep recording until you walk in. I have to get his robe. It's still on the hood. Maya pictured black fabric in rain, the small inside pocket, the photograph he carried on important mornings. Evelyn, she said, check the inside pocket. Carefully. I will. Marcus touched Maya's elbow. Tell me. She lowered the phone. Police took him to the station. The station? He showed ID. I'll call. He hurried behind the counter and lifted the landline. His voice became official, then smaller. This is Marcus Hale. We need to verify whether Judge Reed has been brought in. Maya watched his face harden. What do you mean, pending verification? He is the verification. The courtroom doors opened. People waiting for the ceremony leaned out. Maya called her father again. Across town, on the cold, wet roof of a sedan, the screen lit with her name for the 5th time. The bench in interview room 2 was bolted to the wall, and the cold came through Nathaniel's robe before the door finished closing. He sat with his hands cuffed in front, the chain resting against his watch. A ceiling vent clicked above him. The room smelled of disinfectant, old paper, and burned coffee. Officer Blake Mercer dropped a plastic tray on the table. Empty your pockets. You have already taken my wallet and keys. Then empty what's left. Nathaniel reached into the inside pocket of the robe. His fingers found the photograph first. The corner had bent. He drew it out with care. Blake glanced at it. That evidence? No. Tray. It is a photograph of my wife. I didn't ask. Evan Bell stood by the door with the folder under one arm. His face changed when Nathaniel laid the small picture beside a pen, a handkerchief, and a courthouse access card. Can I make one call? Nathaniel asked. When booking clears. I have not been booked. You're being processed. That is a word, not a legal basis. Blake leaned over the table. The fluorescent light caught rain on his collar. You want to keep correcting me? Nathaniel's eyes moved to the camera. I want the record to be accurate. For a second, only the vent answered. Blake turned to Evan. Outside. Their voices carried through the thin door. He provided judicial ID at the stop, Evan said. He provided a card. It had a seal. So do novelty certificates. The courthouse called his phone. You saw me put the phone with his property. You put it face down on the roof. No answer came. Nathaniel picked up Elise's photograph and pressed the bent corner flat. In the picture, her yellow scarf had been caught by wind, and she had laughed just as the camera fired. Maya always said it made him look like a man borrowing strength from paper. The door opened hard. Photo stays in the tray, Blake said. Nathaniel placed it back. Then keep it flat. Blake smiled without warmth. Anything else, Your Honor? Evan looked at the floor. Nathaniel did not answer the title. The metal bench numbed the backs of his legs. He shifted once, then stopped. At the desk outside, Blake began typing. Nathaniel could hear each key. Subject became argumentative, Blake murmured. Evan stood behind him. He asked for verification. Repeatedly challenged lawful commands. He complied. Bell, go get coffee. No. Blake stopped typing. What? No, sir. I need to note something. You need to learn when a morning is above your grade. The supplemental line should say he presented judicial identification before transport. Blake turned. You calling me a liar? I'm saying the report should match the video. A phone rang down the hall. The front desk answered, then covered the receiver. Sergeant Pierce? Courthouse again. Blake's jaw tightened. Tell them we're verifying. Sergeant Nolan Pierce came out, glasses hanging from his collar. Mercer, why is the courthouse asking whether we have Judge Reed? The hallway went still. Evan looked through the narrow glass toward Nathaniel. Blake closed the report window, but not before Nathaniel saw the unfinished sentence reflected in the glass. No valid official identification presented. Sergeant Pierce stood in the doorway with the front desk phone blinking red. Answer me, he said. Blake Mercer kept one hand on the keyboard. Name matched Nathaniel Reed. We're confirming whether it's the same Reed. Pierce looked through the narrow glass. Nathaniel sat inside with the robe over his knees, Elise's photograph flat on the tray. You transported him before confirming? Possible impersonation. Evan Bell lifted the cream credential. He gave this at the stop. Pierce took the card, read the raised seal, and lowered his voice. Mercer, my office. Blake stood so fast his chair struck the wall. Evan started after them. Not you. The office door closed, but wired glass carried pieces of speech. Remove the courthouse language, Pierce said. We are not writing ourselves into a corner. He was unidentified until station verification. Evan looked at the credential. The seal pressed a half moon into his thumb. At the desk, the clerk covered the phone. Courthouse wants a supervisor. They can leave a message. They say his daughter is in the lobby. Inside the room, Nathaniel's head turned. Blake looked away first. Evan opened the body camera system. Mercer, 6:04 a.m., Bridge Road. The file loaded slowly, rain ticking against the windows. His finger hovered over Save Local Audit Copy. Bell? Blake called. What are you doing? Checking the timestamp. For accuracy. The cursor blinked. Evan pressed save. The computer gave a soft chime. Blake came up behind him. You think that helps you? I think reports should survive playback. Pierce's mouth tightened. Nobody deletes anything. Nobody shares anything. We wait for command. Then the report should say he presented ID before transport. Blake leaned close. You are making a career decision before breakfast. Evan's throat moved. Maybe. Across town, Evelyn Hart sat in Lila Cruz's van with Nathaniel's robe folded in her lap. Lila drove toward the courthouse, coffee apron tied over her jeans. You have the video? Lila asked. Yes. Then why do you look like you're carrying glass? Because once I hand it over, it stops being mine. They'll ask why I recorded. You did speak. Too late. The robe smelled of rain and road grit. Dust marked the hem. Evelyn slid 2 fingers into the inside pocket. The photograph isn't here. He kept it? I hope so. At the courthouse, Maya met them before security. Where is he? Still at the station, Evelyn said. Maya saw the robe, the wet crease, the grit along the sleeve. For a second she did not reach for it. That is my father's. Marcus Hale came behind her. We need the original file preserved. Evelyn pulled her phone against her coat. My brother filed a complaint once. Same kind of room. 3 weeks later, his hours vanished. Maya lowered her voice. I won't force you. That's worse, Evelyn said. The lobby noise faded. Shoes on marble, metal detector buzz, rain tapping high glass. Evelyn looked at the robe. He shook his head at me. He was protecting me while they were taking him. Maya blinked once. Evelyn unlocked her phone. The first frame showed blue lights over Bridge Road and the Robe sliding toward the dust. "Tell me where to send it," she said. Evelyn's thumb shook over the share icon. Maya guided her into a small conference room while Marcus Hale closed the door. Courthouse noise pressed through. Shoes on marble, the elevator bell, a clerk calling a docket that should have begun with Nathaniel. "Original file first," Marcus said. "Time documented." Evelyn held the phone like it might burn. "I don't know how to do secure." "I do." Maya pulled out a chair. "Sit." "I should have stepped closer." "You recorded." I whispered his name into a coffee window. Lila Cruz laid Nathaniel's robe on the table. The black cloth sagged, wet at the folds, dust marking the hem where Bridge Road had taken it. Maya reached for it, then stopped before touching the grit. "That was on the ground?" "On the hood first," Lila said. "Then wind caught it." Evelyn unlocked the screen. The video began with rain on glass and Blake Mercer's voice cutting across traffic. "Hands behind your back." Maya did not move. Nathaniel appeared at the edge of the frame, shoulders straight, face turned toward Mercer's camera. The robe slipped from the hood, one sleeve dragging through road dust. "Call the courthouse," Nathaniel said. Blake's reply came sharp, half broken by wind. "This isn't court." Marcus leaned closer. "Back it up." Evelyn did. The wind swallowed a word. Everyone bent toward the phone. "He told him exactly what to do," Maya said. "He told him 3 times," Evelyn answered. A knock struck the door. Diane Whitcomb leaned in, hair damp from rain, press badge turned backward. "I'm not filming," Diane said, "but police just told me no judge is in custody." Marcus reached for the landline. "No," Maya said. "We build the chain first." Diane's eyes flicked to the phone. "Is that Bridge Road?" "It is not for broadcast." "I didn't ask to broadcast." "You asked with your eyes." Diane nodded once. The public information officer used the words routine verification. If that is not true, their first version is outside this building. Maya turned to Evelyn. "Can you email the original to Marcus and me?" "If I do, my name is attached." "Yes." "And if I don't?" Maya touched the dusty hem. Grit stayed on her fingertips. "Then they may call my father's silence behavior and his idea prop." Evelyn stared at the robe. "He shook his head so I wouldn't step into the street." "He does that," Maya said. "He protects people who are safe." She opened her laptop and typed, "Read stop original evidence." Lila set a paper cup beside Evelyn. "Hold it. Your hands need something warmer." Evelyn took the cup. Steam fogged her glasses. Then she sent the file. The progress circle crawled. Outside, the elevator chimed. Maya's phone buzzed with no caller ID, then stopped before she answered. Marcus checked his inbox. Received. Time stamped 7:46 a.m. "Save it," Maya said. "Back it up. Do not rename it." Diane stepped toward the hall. "I'm going to ask police whether Officer Mercer transported a man after seeing judicial identification." "Diane," Marcus warned. "I won't name him." Maya lifted the robe at last. Dust fell onto the polished table in a thin brown line. On the frozen video, Blake's hand pointed at Nathaniel while the phone on the sedan roof glowed with Maya's name. Diane Whitcomb stood under the courthouse awning, recorder in her pocket. Rain had softened to mist. She dialed the police public information line. "This is Diane Whitcomb with Channel 7 Local. Did Officer Blake Mercer transport a man from Bridge Road at 6:12 this morning?" A young voice answered, "We have no active arrest matching that description." "I didn't ask about an arrest." "The person may have presented judicial identification." Paper moved near the receiver. Please hold. Inside, Maya Reed stood over the conference table. Nathaniel's robe lay folded in front of her, dust marking the sleeve. Marcus Hale came in with a printed docket. Courtroom 1, he said. Presiding judge listed at 8 a.m. Maya took it. The words, Honorable Nathaniel Reed, sat in clean black ink. Put that beside the video. The conference phone rang. Marcus hit speaker. Hawthorne Falls Police Department, a woman said. Sergeant Pierce is unavailable. This is Marcus Hale, court administrator. Confirm whether Judge Nathaniel Reed is in your custody. The line clicked. A man came on. Lieutenant Arlen Voss, we are reviewing a roadside contact. Maya leaned closer. Roadside contact? Who is speaking? Maya Reed, his daughter. Voss spoke carefully. I am not prepared to discuss personnel actions. Then discuss location. Is he there? Yes. Evelyn covered her mouth. Marcus closed his eyes. And why? Maya asked. Did your department tell a reporter no one matching that stop was in custody? I will look into that. Diane slipped through the door and mouthed, They held me. Marcus slid the docket beside Evelyn's frozen video. Blue light washed over Nathaniel's robe. On the paper, his name weighted above the court seal. Maya photographed both together. At the station, Evan Bell saw the delay notice on the lobby television. Today's 8 o'clock session postponed pending the return of Honorable Nathaniel Reed. They put his name up, Evan said. Blake reached for the remote. Don't, Sergeant Pierce said. Pierce stood with his glasses in one hand, face gray under fluorescent light. Lieutenant Voss is coming down. For what? Blake said. We verified him. You transported him before you verified him. He was non-compliant. Evan looked up from his notebook. He complied. Blake's eyes snapped toward him. Say that again. On camera, sir. The interview room door opened. Nathaniel stepped out with his property tray. Elise's photograph lay on top, still bent at one corner. Lieutenant Voss entered from the hall, rein on his shoulders, and looked from Nathaniel to Blake to the credential. Judge Reed, Voss said. I apologize for the delay. Nathaniel picked up the photograph before the access card. My daughter has been waiting since 7. We can arrange transport. No, return my phone. Blake placed it on the counter without meeting his eyes. The screen lit with 12 missed calls and one message from Marcus. We have the video. Do not discuss anything without us. Nathaniel read it, then looked at Evan. You wrote down the time? Yes, sir. Pierce shifted. Judge, we can handle any confusion internally. Nathaniel's voice made the room lower itself. No, Sergeant. This morning is already outside the room. Lieutenant Voss offered Nathaniel the front exit. Nathaniel chose the side door. Rain had thinned to mist, and the alley behind the station smelled of brick and diesel. He carried his property in a brown paper bag, except for Elise's photograph, held between 2 fingers so the bent corner would not fold again. Maya waited beyond the rail with Marcus, Evelyn, and Lila. She had his robe over one arm. Dad. Maya stepped forward and touched his sleeve, not his wrist. Are you hurt? No. That is not an answer. It is the answer I can give before coffee. I called 12 times. My phone was on the roof of the car. Lila looked away. Evelyn lowered her eyes. Nathaniel turned to her. Ms. Hart, I'm sorry. For recording? For waiting. He looked at the phone in her hand, then at the robe. Its hem had dried in a dirty wave. You did not wait. At the station doors, Blake Mercer stood behind glass, arms folded. Maya noticed. They're not apologizing? Nathaniel placed his wallet into the robe's pocket. An apology used to end a scene is not the same as one earned. You are not going to let them call this confusion. No. Good. But breathe before you speak. He raised Elise's photograph. Your mother used to say anger can carry you to the door, but it should not be the one to knock. Maya held the robe open, but he did not put it on. He smoothed the front panel, brushing the cloth without hiding the grit. Marcus cleared his throat. The courthouse is full. Angela Brooks wants a packet by noon. Preserve the video, Nathaniel said. We have it stored. Metadata? Yes. Body camera request? Drafted. Maya said, Evan Bell gave me the timestamp. Nathaniel looked back through the station glass. Evan stood near a desk, notebook against his chest. Their eyes met. The young officer dipped his chin. Then include his name accurately, Nathaniel said. Lila stepped closer. Judge Reed, your coffee got cold. That seems to be the least damaged thing this morning. She held out a fresh cup. Then take the least damaged thing. He accepted it with both hands. Heat seeped into his fingers. Maya studied Elise's photograph, the yellow scarf, the new crease near the corner. She would have walked into that station. She would have walked in singing. I wanted to scream at them. I know. Then why are you so calm? Nathaniel looked at the station window. Blake had turned away, but his reflection remained. Because they were never only listening to my voice. They drove to the courthouse in Marcus's sedan. Nathaniel sat beside Maya, robe folded across his knees. When the columns came into view, the crowd under them grew still. Ready? Maya asked. No, he said. Open the door anyway. The lobby swallowed them in marble light and damp shoe sounds. Lawyers stepped back. Clerks stopped. Diane Whitcomb lowered her microphone. Nathaniel walked to the center of the floor and set the robe over his forearm. The dirty hem faced outward. Court will convene at 10, he told Marcus. Until then, every record stays exactly as it is. Maya stood beside him. Across the lobby, beneath his name on the delay screen, a new line blinked into place. Emergency Oversight Review requested. At 11:58 a.m., the oversight room smelled of old varnish and coffee gone bitter. Angela Brooks placed a blue folder at the center table. Judge Reed, you understand this review is independent of your courtroom. Nathaniel sat with Maya at his right. His robe rested on the empty chair beside him, dirty hem outward. I do. And you are not presiding. No, ma'am. Blake Mercer sat across with Sergeant Pierce. Evan Bell stood near the rear wall, notebook to his thigh. Angela looked down. Officer Mercer, your statement says the driver refused to identify himself. He refused basic questions. Maya opened her folder. At 6:06 a.m., my father handed over his license, insurance, and judicial credential. Officer Bell is heard saying, Sir, he handed over another ID. Blake leaned to the microphone. A card was presented. It was not verified. Because you did not verify it, Maya said. Pierce cleared his throat. Fast roadside contact. Angela raised one finger. Sergeant, you will have a turn. Maya pressed play. Evelyn's video filled the screen. Rain on glass, blue light, a sleeve sliding toward road dust. Hands behind your back, Blake's recorded voice said. Then Nathaniel's voice. My court identification is in your possession. Pause, Angela said. Marcus froze the frame. The robe hung from Nathaniel's hand above the dirty white line. Angela turned to Blake. Why was that not in your first report? I summarized. You omitted. A folder closed in the room with a careful, flat sound. Maya placed the call log beside the credential copy. The courthouse called my father's phone at 6:13. I called at 6:18. The phone was not returned. Pierce said, "Property is secured during transport." "It was on the roof of the sedan," Maya answered. Angela looked toward the back. "Officer Bell?" Evan stepped forward. "I saw it placed there. I should have said something." Blake turned. "You're testifying against your partner?" "I'm answering her question." Angela opened another file. "Body camera metadata was saved at 7:31. Did you save it?" "Yes, ma'am." "Why?" "Because the draft report did not match what I remembered." Pierce leaned back. "Drafts are drafts." "And who advised Mercer to remove courthouse language?" The heater clicked on, pushing dusty air across the room. Pierce folded his hands. "I advised precision." Maya slid one page forward. The recovered line reads, "No valid official ID presented." Angela repeated the line once. Nathaniel placed Elise's photograph face down before him. "Judge Reed," Angela said, "before recess, do you wish to make a statement?" Blake's chair creaked. Nathaniel stood. "I do not ask this board to make my morning larger than anyone else's. A system becomes dangerous when it learns to hide a mistake faster than it learns to correct one. This morning, a robe was treated like a costume, a credential like a prop, and calm words like resistance." He slid the photograph into his pocket. "That is about the next person who will not have a courthouse waiting for them." Angela said, "Full preservation orders remain in effect. We continue after recess." Across the aisle, Blake stared at the frozen image where Nathaniel's robe still hovered above the road. The recess lasted 9 minutes, but no one left the room. Rain threaded the windows behind Angela Brooks. Blake Mercer sat with both hands flat on the table, his badge catching light each time his chest moved. Pierce whispered once in his ear. Blake did not answer. Angela returned with 2 board members. "We are deciding what must happen before sunset." Nathaniel sat beside Maya, still as if the room's noise belonged elsewhere. "Finding one? Mercer had valid identification before transport and failed to verify it." Blake leaned in. "It was a fast roadside decision. You had a radio, a phone, a partner, and the courthouse 3 blocks away." Pierce cleared his throat. "Context matters." "It does. That is why we read it aloud." A board member slid over a still, Nathaniel's credential in Evan Bell's hand. "Finding 2. The draft report omitted material facts and contained language contradicted by video, calls, and witness testimony." "Drafts are not final reports," Blake said. From the back wall, Evan answered, "It would have been if nobody stopped it." Blake turned. "You don't know that." "I know what I heard." Paper shook in Evan's hand. Angela looked at him. "Plainly, Officer Bell." Evan swallowed. "I saw Judge Reed hand over the credential. I heard him ask for verification. I heard the robe called a costume. And when Pierce told him to remove courthouse language, I understood what that meant." Pierce's face hardened. "Careful." Evan looked down, then up. "I was careful this morning. That was the problem." Nathaniel looked at Blake's badge, bright enough to throw a white dot onto the table. Angela opened the envelope. "Mercer is placed on unpaid suspension pending termination review. Pierce is relieved of command pending external audit. Both will surrender credentials before leaving." Blake shoved his chair back. "You're doing this because of who he is." Nathaniel turned. "No." Blake's laugh came out dry. "No? This is happening because of what you did before you knew who I was." Voss stepped forward. "Officer Mercer." For a moment, Blake stayed seated. Then he unpinned the badge from his uniform. The metal scraped as he placed it on the table beside the closed investigation folder. Without it, Dark cloth over his chest looked unfinished. Pierce removed his command pin. His fingers slipped once. In the second row, Evelyn held her black-screened phone. Lila leaned close. "You did more than you think." Evelyn shook her head. "I still hear him asking for one call." Angela stood. "The report discrepancy goes to independent review. Training records and prior complaints from courthouse corridor stops will be preserved." Pierce looked up. "Prior complaints?" "Yes, all of them." Blake's eyes moved to the badge as if it might answer for him. It did not. Evan stepped into the aisle. "Judge Reed." Nathaniel waited. "I'm sorry I waited until the report." Nathaniel studied the tight collar, the bent notebook, the hands no longer hiding. "Then don't make waiting a habit," he said. Evan nodded once. Maya gathered the documents. "Dad, we have what we need." Nathaniel looked at the folder, the badge beside it, and the robe folded over his arm. "No," he said quietly. "We have enough to start." By 3:06 p.m., Nathaniel Reed had changed from his robe into gray suit, but dust still marked the sleeve on the chair beside him. Maya spread documents across Marcus Hale's conference table. "Suspension is not reform." "No," Nathaniel said. "It is consequence." Angela Brooks sat with her glasses low. "Consequence is what boards know. Procedure is what departments resist." "Then write it so refusal has a cost," Maya said. The room smelled of toner, wet coats, and coffee gone flat. Nathaniel touched the robe hem. "Start with verification," Maya typed. "Any professional credential presented during a stop must be photographed on body camera and verified before transport, unless there is an immediate safety issue." "Add review," Angela said. "Not from the same chain." "Independent desk?" Marcus asked. "Independent desk." Maya kept typing. "Body cameras stay active from first contact until release or booking. Any interruption requires a spoken reason on camera." "That one will anger them," Angela said. "Good," Maya said. Nathaniel gave her a look. "Necessary," she corrected. At 5:30, the same paper hung in the Hawthorne Falls Police Department training room, clipped to a board. The ink was still sharp enough to smell from the first row. 20 officers sat in folding chairs. Evan Bell stood near the back, hands folded. Lieutenant Voss cleared his throat. Judge Reed agreed to speak. Nathaniel stepped beside the sheet. "I agreed to let the recording speak first." The lights dimmed. Evelyn's video filled the wall. Rain, blue lights, a black sleeve sliding toward road dust. Blake's voice came from the speaker. "Put the robe on the hood." No one moved. The clip played until Nathaniel's recorded voice said, "My court identification is in your possession." Nathaniel stopped it there. "A rule does not give a person dignity," he said. "It only makes it harder for someone else to take it quickly. If I had been a mechanic, a nurse, or a man with no title, the procedure should have protected me the same way." Voss said, "Questions?" An older officer raised his hand. "What if the credential is fake?" Maya stood by the wall. "Then verify it. That is the point." Evan stepped forward. "And if your partner skips that step, say it then, not later." The air changed around him. Afterward, Nathaniel found Evelyn by the vending machines. "They used my video," she said, "with permission." "I know." My hands still shook. They shook and kept recording. Lila appeared with a cardboard tray. "Coffee for people who finally learned how to read." "Lila," Nathaniel said. "What?" "I said people." Maya took a cup and turned the handle toward her father. "One more section." Nathaniel read from her laptop. "Civilian complaints involving identity verification shall be routed to the Office of Public Oversight within 48 hours." Angela came up behind them. That line stays. Voss joined them. Tie loosened. The union will push back. Then they can push against the public record, Maya said. Nathaniel looked back into the room. The procedure sheet moved under the air vent, wet ink mixing with floor cleaner and coffee. At the bottom, someone had written in blue marker, name, call, record. He did not ask who wrote it. 3 months later, the courthouse clock struck 9, while Nathaniel Reed stood in chambers with his clean robe hanging from the back of a chair. Maya adjusted the collar of her navy suit in the window reflection. The public dashboard went live this morning. I saw. Every stop review? Filed. Dad, are you going to answer anything with more than one word today? Nathaniel placed Elise's photograph on the desk. The bent corner had been pressed flat under a law book for weeks, but the crease remained, pale and thin across the paper. I am saving speeches for people who require them. A knock came. Evelyn Hart opened the door with a folder against her chest. Her gray hair was pinned tight, but her hand no longer hid her phone. First quarterly report, she said. 4 complaints routed directly to oversight, not command. Maya took the folder. All acknowledged? With signatures, and 3 copies. Downstairs, the ceremony did not feel like celebration. Angela Brooks read the new policy aloud. Evan Bell was in uniform at the back. Angela said, Officer Mercer's termination was finalized after external review. Sergeant Pierce accepted demotion and reassignment outside field supervision pending ethics retraining. No one clapped. Evan walked to the front with a folded page. New officers will review the Reed stop in their first week, he said. Not because the man was a judge, because the stop shows what happens when a title becomes the only reason anyone listens. Across the aisle, Lila Cruz pushed a coffee cup into Evelyn's hand. For when your hands get cold. Evelyn whispered, They aren't cold. Take it anyway. After the ceremony, Nathaniel and Maya crossed Bridge Road on foot. The old white line had been repainted. A small sign near the curb read, Identity Verification Contact Point. No slogans, no names. Maya stopped where the Robe had fallen. Cars passed slowly over damp asphalt. I hated this place. So did I. Do you still? Nathaniel looked toward the courthouse dome, bright beyond the spring trees. Less. A cruiser turned the corner. Evan was driving, a new trainee beside him. He slowed and nodded. Morning, Judge Reed. Counselor. Officer Bell, Nathaniel said. The trainee glanced at the sign, then at Evan, who tapped the body camera on his vest before the cruiser rolled on. Maya watched it go. That was small. Most repairs are. Back in chambers, Nathaniel finally put on the robe. It fell clean over his shoulders, heavy and familiar. The fabric no longer smelled of road grit, only cedar and faint starch from the cleaner. He slipped Elise's photograph into the inside pocket. Maya stood in the doorway. Courtroom 1 is full. Then we should not keep them waiting. She touched the sleeve once. Mom would have made you buy a new robe. She would have tried. And failed? She married a stubborn man. Maya laughed softly, and the sound stayed with him as they entered the hall. At the courtroom door, Nathaniel paused before his nameplate. For months he had seen it on screens and in reports. Now it was only brass on wood, catching morning light. He opened the door. Chairs shifted. Papers settled. Nathaniel rested one hand over the pocket where Elise's photograph lay flat. Good morning, he said. Let's begin. The robe moved without dust. If this story made you think of a time when someone was judged before they were heard, share that moment in the comments. Stories like this matter because they remind us that dignity is not a favor handed down by authority. It belongs to every person before anyone asks for a title, a badge, a job, or a name. Share this with someone who believes justice should protect the quiet person as strongly as the powerful one. And subscribe for more stories about justice, quiet resilience, and the kind of system changes that begin when one person refuses to look away.